Hey y'all, what's going on? My name is Jordan, and I'll be guiding you through Friday's course. We're going to be making this pluck sound, and then generally, as we go through the song, the plucks start to turn into chords, and I'll show you how to manipulate and take full advantage of turning plucks into chords. So have a listen. So that's our basic synth. Now, in order to achieve this type of pluck and with the rest of your regular chords, it's actually actually, let me just open the patch for you so you can see it. It's basically a Thor synthesizer with two subtractors that have echoes and reverbs and a mastering suite on them. And they go to the ins and outs of Thor's sequencer. So I'll show you how to make that. Let me just move all my stuff over so we have room. And it didn't do that. It didn't do that right, I'm sorry. Let me still drag and drop. It's not switching. Okay, well, I guess we'll start with a new document then. So, this patch is actually, what is this? Oh, I know what that is. This patch is actually, cancel. This patch is actually pretty easy to make. It's just what goes on with creating it can be kind of messy. So I'll guide you along with the process. So right off the bat, we want to create a combinator. And we will call this progressive plucker. Now in this, we want to create a Thor. So, create a Thor. Make sure it's initialized. I want to turn up the release to 8 and just leave things as is. I want to turn on all three of these and see, what else did I do? Oh, I know what I did. I did key synchronization and, hold on. I turn it to 1/8. Make sure tempo sync is on. And I did keyboard follow all the way up. And I turned it to a rising saw. Should be waveform 3. Anyways, so for the first oscillator, I just basically took it down an octave. For our second and our third, we're going to be using all analog. So for our second, I turned on sync and turned the PW all the way up for both of these. Actually, for all three of these, I'm sorry. I took the third one down to octave 1 and changed it to a sine. For our second one, I basically left it as is. I also turned on delay and took the time down really, really short. And the feedback a little bit more towards the middle, about 62, and dry wet about a quarter. And let's see, the amount a little bit further down. Now, what I'm going to do is just leave everything as is, except for the amp. Just turn up the decay and sustain all the way. For our resources, I'm going to prep you, so that way we can get this all sorted out. For input 1 and input 2, I'm sorry, input 1 again, because we're also going to send this through our amp, and input 2 and input 2. For the first one, I did 94, because this is going straight out. For our second one, I did 75. This is going to go to our amp. Is it gain or input? It's input. For our second, we're going to take it about 94 again. Take it straight out. Second. Sorry. Second. And our amp input 1 for our last entry, and we're going to put that about 75 again. Okay, so now that we have everything basically prepped, I can go ahead and just close this. So right off the bat, we're going to create a subtractor. And after this, I'm going to create an RV7000. Advanced reverb, take the decay almost all the way down, turn on the EQ of 1, doesn't really do anything. Turn on a compressor, or add in a compressor. Bring down the threshold, and put the input about 4 decibels, 4.1, that's about good. Take the attack down and release somewhat up. The gain, just leave it at 0. So for the creative effects, we're going to go to the echo. Now the echo, I would like to turn to about 1/16. Turn up the feedback almost halfway, so about 55%, and leave the middle just where it is. And so now if we go back to our subtractor, we can start messing around with the, we can start messing around with the oscillators. So for our first one, we're going to take this down an octave, bring down the frequency a little bit more, make sure the level is about 94. For our second oscillator, just make sure it's turned on. And what else did I do? That's basically it. All we need to do is take the left output of our echo and plug it into 1. Okay. Now that we have this, we can close these to maximize our shortness. Click on the first subtractor, hold shift, and go to the echo. So that way when you click, you select all of them. Make sure you hold Alt and you drag. Now that we have created our second oscillator, perfectly as is, we're going to take the same thing we did with the first one, take the left out, and plug it into audio 2. Now that we have that, I'm going to just basically tidy everything up. I'm going to put on an equalizer, make sure this isn't plugged into anything, take the left output again, plug it back in, take the outputs of the Thor and plug it into the equalizer, then take a maximizer and it will automatically route itself. Take the outs of the maximizer and plug them into the device rack into the combinator. Now for the parameters, I'm going to turn on low cut about 30 Hertz. For the first parameter, I'm going to take about 154, gain all the way down, Q all the way up. 2.5 kilohertz or so, 2.585, that's good, gain down, Q all the way up. High shelf, take it down, put up the gain a bit, and the Q all the way down. take off limiter, put on soft clip, amount 127, for the release auto, and put in about 2 decibels. Now that we have our basic patch, we actually want to, when we play our chords, I'll give you a demonstration, we actually get everything. And actually, let me run by this again. Okay, so it seems that I'm running into a bit of problems, so I'm gonna stop right here, keep everything as it is, and I'll be back momentarily. And we're back. Okay, so I figured it out. It turns out the reverb was up way too high, and so I just took down the dry wet to about 10 on both of them. Take that to about 10. And we have our pluck so far. It's very nice, very well done. So basically I'm going to take these chords that I took from a previous project, and it won't allow me to take them. There we go. Now in order to turn something like this into our chords, if I could talk today, if I could transition these pluck chords into chords themselves, what actually happens is that we need to automate the turning on of all 3 of these oscillators and the frequency themselves. So I'll show you how to create that. So I just right-clicked on all the parameters and I did edit automation, and I brought up a new line in our, what is this, in our session view. I also want to edit the automation of all of these parameters, so this can get kind of tricky. You can do this, but actually I'm going to take all those off. What basically happens is that when you turn up the filter oscillators on and the frequency, you start to get a it starts to replace the chords as the plucks. And I can't play anything right now. There we go. So I'm going to draw this in very quickly for you. Turn this down a little bit more. So get out of edit mode, drag this over, edit this point to where it's a little bit higher. Click and drag. This actually takes a lot more time when you're trying to decide what chords to use. It can take all day. It's ridiculous if you're not very literate with what chords or what key you want to play things in. Turn this on. I'm actually going to take that down to the middle, create a new point, and get out of edit mode. So now we have this, when it turns on halfway. Gonna delete those other 2 and just copy this down. Now, if we have a listen, we should have our plucks transition into the chords. That might be too abruptly, and that's because I probably didn't automate the frequency enough. So now we should have a listen. Now it stopped right there because I didn't drag them over, and I'm a retard for not doing that. So let me just cut these in half, get rid of these extras, and just click and drag these over. Now this, as you can listen, starts to replace the chords, but if it turns out to be too much, you can always lower the gain. So thanks for joining me on creating this patch, and I will see y'all later. Have a very nice weekend, and I will see you guys Monday.